They're faced with two options. Either improve society so that people can more broadly benefit, or shut down the conversation about how unfair things are. Because they're not going to address the oligarchical inequality about which the author is speaking, they have to address the other problem. People are beginning to recognize the oligarchical inequality. People are beginning to recognize that the media, state, and big business are operating a triumvirate of dominance to prevent conversation taking place. Therefore, in Canada and elsewhere in the world, you have to introduce censorship legislation. Otherwise, the power of the internet, the power that the internet always promised, could be realized. People all over the world could start communicating and saying, hang on a minute, could we organize society differently? What ideas have you got? How could we do things? Wait, cryptocurrencies, could that work? Solar energy. What about if we trade differently? Could we opt out of this? What if people stop paying tax? What if debt's cancelled at a personal level? All these ideas start to ferment and bubble up. And what happens? Who's challenged ultimately by that? They're faced with two options. Either improve.
Hold on, I'm a bit of an idiot. Couldn't figure out how to stop that loop. Yes, Russell Brand is amazing. He, I mean, I know him from a bunch of movies. I loved him in Get Him to the Greek. But he's amazing. But it's an amazing thing. In times of madness, speaking the truth is a revolutionary act. I screwed up the expression. You know where I'm going with that. What Russell Brand is effectively summarizing there has been said by others throughout the course of human history. It's effectively what's in 1984, George Orwell's 1984. At some point, you don't know what to believe, and it doesn't matter. You just resign yourself to not knowing what to believe. And at some point, the government has so much control in what can be said, what can be published, what should be suppressed, that they could be telling you lies to your face and it won't make a difference because you won't know how much chocolate was produced last week, how many people perished in a certain incident of conflict. You just don't know. And Russell Brand, in that piece on Twitter that I clipped it from on his channel, is talking about. Well, that was straight up Canadian, like it's never been Canadian before. Talking about what's happening in Canada. You know, the government, which tried to rein in, call it the Wild West. Others might just call it freedom of expression of the interwebs. With their former Bill C-10, which ironically enough, the Minister of Heritage, what's his name? Stephen Guilbeault. Ironically enough, the individual who was talking about promoting this Bill C-10, which would regulate the internet the way the Canadian government currently regulates television and radio. I don't say this to make fun of him. I mean, people get arrested all the time. Stephen Guilbeault. I just say it's ironic that an individual who was an environmentalist, who was fighting government abuse, who got arrested because he believed so much in the cause of fighting government abuse, government overreach, is now the one who is behind the government abuse and the government overreach, promoting government abuse and government overreach, but under the guise of we need to protect Canadian culture. We need to protect freedom of speech by suppressing freedom of speech. And in case anybody does not believe me, you know that you can trust the CBC, the state-funded CBC, when they run something that's somewhat against the interests of their employer. And yes, people, I'm calling the government of Canada the employer of the CBC because they pay them. And that's how it works. When someone pays you, when someone subsidizes your work, it's not that creative of an interpretation to say that they are their employer. This is CBC. What year is this from? October 27, 2021. New environment minister faces questions about past activism. Says he has no secret agenda. Is this the one I'm talking about here? Okay, there he is. There's Minister Guilbeault. Minister of Environment and Climate Change, Stephen Guilbeault, speaks with media following a cabinet meeting in October. Canada's new environment minister, this is former Minister of Heritage, the one promoting this Bill C-10, which sought to regulate internet and, as we later found out, social media accounts, the way the Broadcast Act or the Broadcasting Act governs radio and television. Yada, yada, yada. Let's just get... Guilbeault said the plan... Oh, he's an environmentalist. We know that. Where does it get to the part of him having been arrested? In 2001, Guilbeault was arrested after scaling Toronto's CN Tower to raise awareness of climate change. In 2002, he was involved in a Greenpeace stunt that saw activists climb onto the roof of then Alberta Premier Ralph Klein's house to install solar panels. Can you imagine? Can you just imagine if in today's day and age, any one of those trucker protesters had climbed onto Justin Trudeau's house to do anything, to install a Canadian flag? Can you imagine if any one of those protesters in Ottawa who sat there peacefully honking their horns for 3 weeks, had they climbed onto the roof of the house of Justin Trudeau or any liberal politician? Can you imagine what would have happened? You want to talk about protests that once upon a time, sure, it got him arrested. It also got him into government, Minister of Heritage. And I don't even necessarily judge negatively Guilbeault for having done it. He believed in it. He did a stunt, got arrested, and accepted his punishment, I presume. But he is now member of the government. Whereas if anybody today on the other side of the ideological spectrum had done anything remotely similar in scope and severity to this, can you imagine what Justin Trudeau would have done, what his police would do, what the court system would do to anybody who would dare climb on a politician's house today? They would say, yes, the environment is different. Back then, it was all peaceful, lovey-dovey, and no one cared. So this individual who was once arrested because he was protesting the government is now in the government and is now trying to say that the government that he once protested should have the power, the authority to govern social media accounts the way they govern the CBC, Radio-Canada. You know, the only difference, the big difference, at least they pay Radio-Canada and CBC for the honor of governing their content. At least Radio-Canada and CBC get paid by the government to be subject to the terms. They get subsidized. They stay in business. This law here, Bill C-10 and now the Bill C-11 that Rusty Rockets Russell Brand is talking about, is not talking about paying content creators. It's talking about suppressing the voices of content creators and tweaking the algorithm of search engines to falsify the results, to promote good content while suppressing bad content. You live long, what is it? You either die the hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. So Rusty Rockets, Russell Brand, taking an interest in Canadian politics. I mean, and rightly so, because on the one hand, this is not just Canadian. This is becoming international. This is becoming a tendency throughout the world, one which George Orwell remarked upon when he wrote 1984 back in 1950, whatever, that the government is coming down to control everything right down to what you do in your own house. We're demonetized. Obviously, we're demonetized already because I showed a picture of members of our government. Request review. We're living in a world now where the government is micromanaging every aspect of citizen life, controlling what they do, who they see, what they wear, what they force their children to wear, what they do with their children, while simultaneously controlling or seeking to control the very information that they can absorb, and while simultaneously controlling the very information that they can express, and more so in Canada. You know, when you make laws like hate speech laws, which seem good at the time, and they're sold under the most clear-cut of pretexts. You can't have people wishing violence on identifiable groups of people. You can't have people wishing violence on any people. So you try to go out and pass hate speech laws because it's black and white when you put it out there, as if there weren't already laws to govern that anyhow. But what's his name? Oh, more laws, less justice. Tacitus, I believe. You pass these hate speech legislations, you expand on hate speech legislation, and you always sell it with the clear cut, you can't have people wishing violence on any individual, identifiable group of people who've been historically marginalized. And then lo and behold, one day in the not so distant future, criticizing the government is going to be deemed to be hate speech. People who criticize policy are going to be demonized, are going to be called extremist eccentrics. Whereas, criticizing the government itself becomes criminalized, where, what was it that Justin Trudeau said? Creating a sentiment that contradicts or undermines the authority of government. The government went from being a necessary evil, but the least amount possible of it, to being a parent that I never asked for, that I don't want, and that thinks it gets to micromanage citizen life the way an overbearing, abusive parent governs and rules over their children. What sources, books would you suggest to read between the lines? Politicians, lawyers use. Catching doublespeak is not a common skill. I'm not random games. I'm not the most learned or redded. I'm not the most redded person on earth. Other than the classics, Scott Adams' Loserthink is a good book to read or listen to. 1984 is obligatory. But I mean, pick any philosopher. Pick some of the classic philosophers. Philosophy of language. Noam Chomsky, for all he may have fallen politically speaking recently, his books on linguistics are interesting. Anyway, so that's it. So Russell Brand is talking about Bill C-11, which is the new law in Canada that wants to prioritize good content, suppress bad content, govern the internet and social media accounts the way the Broadcast Act governs radio and television, impose requirements for Canadian content, which would require social media platforms operating in Canada to suppress or promote content, both of which is a form of censorship. Promoting content is a form of censorship. It might be, maybe you call it positive censorship, but when you promote unnaturally, when it's not what people are interested in that determines what they view, you are censoring inversely what you are, inversely to what you are promoting. And then when you suppress, it's just suppression. And then creating requirements, you got to put out X, Y, and Z content to be Canadian, as if they've ever applied that consistently, and impose financial penalties if you don't. This is the way for the government to rein in free speech on the internet, which is the last bastion of free speech to, I'll say, condemn, criticize, to go after this government for the most egregious violations of charter rights I can imagine have ever been seen in the free world. People are like, well, you still can go on the internet and complain about the government, so they can't be that tyrannical. You can do it until they decide that your protest is mischief, and then they lock you up, and then deprive you of your right to go online and criticize the government. They deprive you of your right to start fundraisers so that you can fundraise movements that might have the object of criticizing the government. Just a reminder to those who doubt Elon's influence at Twitter. The major shareholders designation is described as the controlling influence. So we're going to get to this. We're going to get to Elon Musk buying 9.2% interest in Twitter, or 9.7, under 10% for reasons we'll explain. We're going to talk about, speaking of suppressing freedom of speech and criminalizing it, Artur Pawlowski, the street church pastor, the get out guy. Maybe we'll have to play that video at some point just to refresh everybody's memory. Arrested, detained. Pawlowski was originally detained for a few days. It was Pastor James Coates who was detained for over a month, partially in solitary confinement. Tell you, Canada finds a way to release criminals and lock up pastors. and then wonders why it has a spate of violent crimes against churches, which the government doesn't refer to as a hate crime. Go figure that logic out. So we're going to talk about that as well. We're going to go over the Oberlin decision. Just a few paragraphs of beauty, because I think it's if Oberlin has earned one thing, it has earned the right to be publicly mocked, and people should remember how awful, how egregiously over the top, maliciously awful it was what Oberlin did to the Gibson's Bakery. And I think people tend to forgotten the details. They think it's Oberlin called the bakery racist. We're going to go over that Court of Appeal decision and just highlight some of the major paragraphs, because people need to remember. When people forget, and when people forget the details, every now and again, you just have to remind people how over the top it was. Yeah, and then Julian Assange is still locked up. And, and then everyone says, like, oh, well, Julian Assange broke the law. Julian Assange, published hacked material. Some people still think Julian Assange played a role in unlawfully procuring those documents. It only happens to Julian Assange. It only happens to Alex Jones. And then, lo and behold, it happens to the President of the United States while sitting in office. Then, lo and behold, it happens to pastors. It happens to protesters. Oh, but it only happens to the violent protesters, the ones in D.C., the January 6th violent protesters. It only happens to them, except for that, the granny who was meandering through the House of the People and gets the hammer of the iron fist of the law thrust upon her. The shaman, who is an eccentric individual who obviously made a mistake, in jail now for years. No physical assault, no accusation that the shaman, the QAnon shaman, whatever his name is, Angeli, no accusations of actual violence, although he had a spear, which I believe was misinterpreted or interpreted as a weapon. Years in jail. Well, but it's only going to happen to them until it happens to peaceful protesters in Ottawa, in Canada, locked up for weeks. In Pat King's case, still in jail. His next bail hearing, it's today. If there's a link, holy crab apples, let me just see if I can get, if there's a link to this. Hold on, people. Can't have anybody. Hold on. You know what? I'm gonna ask somebody if I can get. Is there an audio for Pat King hearing today? ? Okay, if there is, I'm going to get it. Let me ask one other person. Pat King is now April 4. He was arrested on February 18. Still in jail on mischief charges. But he asked for it because he's an abrasive, loudmouth person who said certain things on social media. It will never happen to me. At first they came for ... Is there a live hearing for Pat King today? ? So Pat King is still in jail. Love him or hate him. I know there's a lot of people that love him. I know there's a lot of people that don't love him. He has said certain things which, albeit controversial, actually did not form part of the reason for which he is still detained. April 4th, mischief charges. Artur Pawlowski. Let me just go see if I can pull up the video of him being arrested. Just need to remind everybody who Artur, I know most people are going to remember, Get Out. Yeah, I think we can do. Which one can we do here? We'll do this one. Let me just get some. We'll pull up the Get Out, and then we're going to read the terms of his initial release. Is this it? No, this is it. Here we go. This part here. Boom. Have to pull it up from Fox News because it's tough to find the original version. Once the government starts suppressing videos on YouTube that's not sufficiently Canadian content, good luck trying to find stuff. Here, let's do this here. Once the government starts playing with algorithms or forcing, well, I mean they already play with the algorithms anyhow, but once they start forcing social media platforms to tinker with search results, what do you think is going to happen? Share it.
Of this property, immediately get out. get out of this property immediately. Out. I don't want to hear anything. Out.
They just want to talk. They just want to talk.
I don't want to hear a word. Out. Out. Out of
We
this
just want to
property
talk.
immediately until you come back with a warrant.
He called them Nazis.
Yo,
Preach it, preacher man.
I don't know if you heard that part, but yeah, he called them Yahtzees. And by the way, they just wanted to talk. They just wanted to talk, which was to serve him with a judgment enjoining him from carrying out one of his constitutional rights, freedom of religion. And then they arrested him. Pushing one group down while propping up another, I think, is repressive tolerance. Marcuse wrote about it. Sounds good. Sounds logical as well. And then we have, oh, I didn't do the disclaimers. YouTube takes 30% of super chats. If you don't like that, we are simultaneously I can't do it. Simultaneously streaming on Rumble. Rumble has a Rumble Rants, which they take 20%, yada, yada, yada. If you want to support the channel, thank you very much. If you don't want to, or you want to on another platform, vivabarneslaw.locals.com. And no legal advice, no medical advice, no election fortification undermining the sanctity of, infallible elections advice. So, Pawlowski, that video went viral, telling them, get out, get out, get out. And at the time, not that I'm prophetic, and I've made a number of predictions that have not come to fruition. It just makes me feel smarter to focus on the ones that did come to fruition, even if they are bad ones. I said, yeah, everyone was like, yeah, this is how you do it. This is how you fight the power. And I was like, dude, they're going to come back. They're going to come back with a warrant, and they're going to come back angrier than they did before. Because, they're polite. And they were polite when they arrested him. And they were polite when they sentenced him. And they were polite when they cuffed him on the side of the street. But I said, this was not a victory. They're just going to come back. And they're going to come back with more force than the time they came before. And they did. Then they arrested him. Then they put him in jail. And then they released him. Let me pull up the article about the terms of his release, which I went over at the time. They released him from jail. Canadian judge. Oh, we're going to go back to Fox News, but I don't think we're going to be able to see this. Maybe we will. How do I expand this? If I go like this, no, not working. How do I turn this? Can I go like that? Oh, how about this? No, still not working. Well, I don't think you'll be able to see this, but the terms of Artur Pawlowski's release, as determined by the judge, a requirement that during the period of his probation, this is coming from the judge, terms of release for Artur Pawlowski, when publicly speaking against AHS, which is Alberta Health Services, health orders and health recommendations, that he indicate the following: qualified speech provisions. I am aware that the views I am expressing to you on this occasion may not be views held by the majority of medical experts in Alberta. While I may disagree with them, I am obliged to inform you that the majority of medical experts favor social distancing, mask wearing, and avoiding large crowds to reduce the spread of COVID-19. Most medical experts also support participation in a vaccination program unless for a valid religious or medical reason you cannot be vaccinated. Vaccination to save lives and to reduce the severity of COVID-19. This was imposed on Artur Pawlowski under the terms of his release. It's qualified. It's qualified speech. You could, when you are exercising your free speech, Mr. Pawlowski, here's what you also have to say. No, qualified. I mean, this Artur Pawlowski story, and yet whether or not he's hyperbolic, whether or not he's out there. First of all, where's he from? Poland. I'll take it from someone who grew up and raised and fled Poland to identify communism when they see it. When I was documenting the protests, and I couldn't understand. I couldn't understand for like 30 seconds. I saw a lot of Hungarians. I saw a lot of Polish people. I saw a lot of Polish people. A lot of Eastern Bloc. I didn't know what the flag was at first. I thought it was a Honduran flag for some reason. I noticed a lot of flags. I was like, why is this flag in particular here? I was told while I was live streaming, it's the flag of Hungary. Why Hungary? Well, they've seen this happen in real time. They've seen it. And so Hungarian immigrants, Hungarian Canadians can see Poles sounds insulting. And so does Polacks, but I don't know. I don't know anymore. A lot of Croatians, that's correct. A Croatian flag I was familiar with. But they've seen it. They've seen it develop in real time. They know what it smells like. Anecdote, story time. Once upon a time, my parents' house had a fire. And it was being redone. It was burnt and flooded, and it had to be basically gutted. There was a freezer in the basement that had a lot of meat in it, because at the time it was we're still a big family, but at the time there was a big family living in the house, and stockpiling meat. And the freezer had remained plugged in throughout this event until, for whatever the reason, the circuit broke. And it was summer. And it had gone for a couple of weeks before anybody realized, until someone walked into the house and I smelt it, because, it's like that episode of SNL where there's like, they're at a dinner table and someone pours a rotten glass of chunky milk and like, oh my God, this is terrible. And everybody has to taste it. Well, I had to smell what this smelled like, and I had to see it. And you walk into the house and it had what can only be described as like a sweet smell of rot or a sweet smell of death. And it got more and more pungent as you got closer to the freezer. And I opened up the freezer. And if you can imagine, the breaker had broken or something where it wasn't refrigerating, but it was still circulating hot air into the fridge. And there was a lot of meat that had rot. And it was repulsive. It was repugnant. It got into your clothes, into your skin. And until you smell that, you cannot imagine what it smells like. So I suspect, because I've never smelt communism. I've never smelt a country go from Venezuela 30 years ago to Venezuela 30 years less a day. I've never smelt a country go from a free country to a totalitarian regime. I don't know what it smells like. I can imagine. I can probably describe it the way others have described it to me, but I don't know what it feels like or smells like. I would argue until now. So when Hungarians are sitting there saying this is what it looks like, and they're the ones protesting, when a Polish pastor is using the Yahtzee word, I'm going to leave it up to him to know what he's talking about. When a judge in Canada, who, by my understanding, has never experienced anything of what Artur Pawlowski has experienced, when he's telling this pastor, You have no business using that word here. It's terrible. It's offensive. And we live in a free country. When the man who fled communism to come to Canada lived here and has seen Canada go from what it used to be to what it is today, when he starts using that word, I'm going to trust that person's judgment more than a judge who has never experienced it. You may find it offensive. You may not like it. But I'm going to trust Pawlowski's determination, having experienced it, more than someone else who has never experienced it. What was I just talking about? So Pawlowski gets arrested. They come back and they arrest him. And I think I just closed that article down. So whatever. They arrested him, and then they arrested him again for breaking the terms of his release. I want to see if I had the article up. I'm going to bring this one up. They arrested him again for violating the terms of his parole, and I believe it was as relates to statements he made about the Coutts blockade. We'll see if we've got the details in this article. This is from Calgary Herald 4 days ago. Street Church Minister Artur Pawlowski, I hope I didn't spell his name wrong, released on bail on charges unrelated to Coutts border blockade. On charges unrelated, okay, let's see this. Crusader and Street Church Minister Artur Pawlowski was granted bail Wednesday on the last charges keeping him behind bars pending trial. Okay, let's just get to this. We read that part. Provincial Court Judge Cheryl Daniel accepted a joint recommendation by defense. Wait until you hear the terms of his re-release, but I want to find out what the charge is related to. So they're not related to Coutts. This is the other thing. If they don't get you on the substance, they get you on the process. The process is the punishment. They can slap on the most frivolous charges on earth that the Crown has no chance of proving beyond a reasonable doubt. But they'll get you on a breach of bail conditions in the meantime. Provincial court, she accepted a joint recommendation by defense lawyer Chad Haggerty and the Crown to release Pawlowski on charges that include allegations he twice breached court orders to abide by COVID-19 public health measures and caused a disturbance at a Shoppers Drug Mart. So the public health measures, I presume he violated, I don't know which of the requirements under his previous bail conditions, which imposed massive fines, compelled speech, which was subsequently overturned on appeal. Should very much specify that, which goes to show you how activist it was in the first place. A disturbance. I'd love to know what that disturbance was at a Shoppers Drug Mart. When bouncy castles and hot tubs is an insurrection and an occupation to overthrow the government, I'd love to know what a disturbance at a Shoppers Drug Mart was. I presume, I have no idea. I imagine it could have been refusing to wear a mask while he goes in. And by the way, from what I understand, the public health measures that he was accused of having violated, which brought him back to jail, have since been rescinded by the province, unless I'm mistaken. Yada, yada, yada. The prosecutor, appearing on behalf of his colleagues, who cares, said the Crown was consenting to Pawlowski's release on similar conditions imposed on the minister last week on charges related to the Coutts border blockade. Wow, they're just really, really going after this guy, because you have freedom of speech in Canada unless you say things the government doesn't like you saying. Pawlowski was ordered to post an additional $5,000 after Justice Galen Kendall said he could be freed on allegations he incited protesters to maintain the blockade during February 3 speech to protesters with conditions that he put up a cash deposit of $25,000. I would invite everyone out there to go see what the terms of release were of other criminals. I think the dude who ran over 4 people in Winnipeg, I think he posted a lot of money. I think. He incited protesters to maintain the blockade. This could be as egregious as you get out there and it doesn't matter what the police are saying, break the law, or it could be as simple as hold the line, which people have been interpreting to be incitements to commit mischief. Daniel also ordered Pawlowski's wife and adult son to provide sureties of $10,000 and $2,000 each, doubling the amounts Kendall said they would have to put at risk to gain his release. And by the way, it's going to be like $20,000 and $24,000 from the wife and son. And if Pawlowski is found to have breached his terms of release again, that's forfeited to the Crown. If Pawlowski breaches his conditions, which include nightly curfew of 7 to 7, with exceptions that include street church services, and that he may not attend any protests, they could be on the hook for $20,000 and $4,000 respectively. Oh, but by the way, he should be happy. He should say, "I love you, big brother. Thank you for giving me my freedom back. This is my freedom." Massive financial risk to abusive accusations of violating the terms of the release. Curfew 12 hours a day. But I love you, big brother. Thank you for letting me go out and conduct church, because that would be a bridge too far as conditions go. Last Friday, Kendall overturned a decision by Lethbridge Provincial Court detaining the minister pending trial on charges relating to Pawlowski's February 3 speech. I'd like to hear that speech. I'd like to hear if it contains anything that I, as an open-minded, fair-minded individual, would think rises to the level of criminality that could ever possibly justify this. Yada, yada, yada. The Crown said that Pawlowski posed an ongoing risk to the public to commit further offenses related to his opposition to COVID-19 public health measures. Imagine, just understand, people, what is being said here. Olson agreed with Crown Prosecutor Stephen Johnson that Pawlowski posed an ongoing risk to the public to commit further offenses related to his opposition of COVID-19 public health. Now, I have been a vocal proponent of this. Criticize, but don't go out there and deliberately break the law, the mandates, even if you think they should be broken, because you run the risk of bringing down the wrath of the entire system on you. Everyone out there that says, Viva, you're a hypocrite. You criticize the measures, but then you're wearing a face mask. You're ugly, your own face on your face mask indoors. You may not like my philosophy. I do not encourage anyone to go break the law, however stupid that law is, because it will only empower the powers that be to do exactly this. Make the most thorough example of you. They'll make a martyr of you to your followers, but they'll make an example of you to everyone else. Oh, a publication ban. Look, this goes from bad to worse. While there was a publication ban imposed by Kendall at the review before her, which was requested by defense lawyer Sarah Miller. I wonder why. No such application was made before Olson. In that hearing, Johnson showed a video of Pawlowski speaking to protesters near the Coots International crossing between Alberta and Montana. Oh, this is not from the speech. I have concluded that the Crown's grounds for seeking detention are substantial and that there is a substantial likelihood that the accused will, if released from custody, continue on offending or interfering with the administration of justice. The accused's patterns of behavior speaks volumes about his willful commission of offenses. Bear in mind what the alleged offenses are and his violations of court and public health orders. His conduct, if proven at trial, has contributed to enormous economic harm to local, provincial, and national economy and substantial community harm to ordinary citizens. They're doing it to protect you people. Anyways, so I guess, justice. Artur Pawlowski has gotten, he's free now. He's free to leave his house from 7 to 7, with the exception of church. He's free to, when he leaves his house from 7 to 7, not attend any protests, have his speech restricted, have his movement. I don't know what the mobility movement restrictions are, but this is Canada. Can you imagine? No, none of it was proven because these are all accusations. He hasn't had his trial yet. And the irony is that a lot of these charges, although mischief, we've discussed it multiple times, is a not bifurcated, it's a dual type of criminal infraction. You can have summary conviction, which is not serious, and you can have indictable offense, which is more serious. And I have no doubt they're going to go hog wild with as much as they can. The penalty for mischief can be a minimal fine, especially when the mischief consists of, I don't know, encouraging people to protest health measures that they disagree with. Inciting people to commit acts of violence, vandalism, destruction of property. Absolutely not. We're now in a realm where speech is being interpreted to say, hold the line, is inciting people to commit violence against property, because by holding the line, you are promoting people to continue an occupation, which is depriving people of their ability to walk on the street, even if that's the argument. And we've seen from the footage that was never really the case in Ottawa, but that's how language is being abused. By telling people to protest these measures, by telling people to hold the line, this is being interpreted as mischievous conduct, incitement to commit mischief, to tell people to hold the line, maintain a protest, which, as the allegation goes, is resulting in the loss of enjoyment of property. The blockade at the border causing economic harm is a different issue, and it's a different level. In Windsor, the argument was always that there were alternative means to travel. It added time, and when you compare this protest to other protests, on some level they all have to disrupt to some extent. Otherwise, it's not a protest. The only question is disruption versus actual violence, actual law, actual destruction of property, actual incitement to do those things. I mean, when you get into the realm of words are violence, even when they're not, because we want to say that they are, hold the line is a mischievous affirmation. We're living in a Kafka novel. All right. If you're not blocking something, you're not protesting. Well, compare that to Guilbeault. If you're not illegally scaling something, you're not protesting. Now, true, he did get arrested. I wonder if his treatment was anything like this. Different times, different contexts, different social climates. Yes. Viva, there may be a time when our justice system fails to follow the Constitution. Well, I think we're there now. I think the government has not been respecting the Constitution for years. I was going back to my Twitter feed just to see. Hold on, which video, Light Giver? I want to see which video you're talking about. I was going back to my my Twitter feed to see when in the context of all of this, I began to question. I began to say this doesn't make sense. And to my own credit, it was earlier than I remembered it at the time. I thought I was slower to understand, to determine, to complain about what was going on than I was. I was actually a little bit quick nowhere near as quick as others. But what I'll say in my defense is that being too quick but right is a question of luck. Taking your time and making sure you've assessed is a question of strategy. I'll say that. But there were people who were smarter who understood very quickly that what was being done was grotesque overreach, absolutely tyrannical, and arguably effective. And now we're seeing what's going on in China, version 2.0. Actually, let me pull that up. Let me pull that up because this is where, if you don't learn from history, you don't learn. Did I just make that up? That's not bad. If I ever say a quote that seems intelligent, someone clip it so that I can remember my own quasi-intelligent thoughts. I'm not sure that I'm going to for indefinitely. Okay, that was Russell Brand. Here we go. Wait a minute, I'm not sharing the screen. I'm an idiot. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. Yeah, if you want to share, you actually have to go and hit share. It is under Twitter. It is under this. We shall share it. So now let me explain to you my thought process with this, because I don't view this and accept it unquestioningly. I don't know when this video was taken. I don't know under what context. I don't know what's going on. I don't speak the language. I don't know anything. It could be something totally unrelated to anything. There could have been, I'm trying to think of like a natural disaster. There could have been a volcano eruption, or there could have been some natural disaster, and they're just trying to make sure everybody goes to the right. I don't know. I don't know the context. I think I can surmise some of the context, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter for the point that I was making, which was that phone. I hate that phone. Hold on 1 second. Okay, someone answered it. I don't know the context. I view that video with the exact same scrutiny, skepticism, lack of coming to a determination, because I don't know the context, as I do every other video. I don't treat it differently because I think it confirms a narrative that I want it to confirm. Full stop. So when I retweet things like that, and I have to make sure that I'm not, making an affirmation about a video that might be totally contextually different than what is being sold as, although Jack Posobiec has been quite consistent. My only observation, set this video aside. Remember back in 2020, when we were seeing all sorts of very, very interesting videos coming out of China. And I say interesting as in shocking, upsetting, over-the-top tyrannical, blow-torching doors shut to lock people in, going down the streets, spraying some mystery substance all over the place. And I remember Ezra Levant at the time saying, "What are you spraying on the streets? What do we?" I remember all of these videos showing the arrests, detainments, whisking people off for whatever the reason, blow torching people in. And I remember at the time we saw this and we're like, this is tyranny. This could never happen in the West. This is shocking. And then lo and behold, 6 months later, we were implementing this policy in the West. Lockdowns, curfews, the face masks. We were implementing this. So with the videos, and then you remember at one point we were seeing videos of people just expiring, to put it diplomatically, expiring on video, expiring during Zoom calls, collapsing on the streets. We saw all of these videos. And then, lo and behold, we started implementing some of the most shocking and tyrannical measures that we saw video of them implementing in China back in the day. So I look at that video and I say, remember 2020? And if this video is the context that we think it is, on the one hand, this is either a sign of, if history repeats itself or if history rhymes. Well, the last time we saw videos of what we thought was tyrannical, over-the-top, unconstitutional violations of human rights out of China, we were implementing those very same measures 6 months later. So there's that. The other thing, see it, get desensitized so that it's less shocking when it's in front of your front door. So yeah, if I had a nickel for every time I said that about myself. Now I seem to have missed a yellow super chat. Maybe it's, oh, there it is. Okay, here we go. We got Light Giver. Says, live from the shed. Oh, I shared that video. You know what? Hold on. I shared that video everywhere. It was must-watch, powerful tribute to the convoy. Here, hold on. I don't want to play it because it has music in it, and I don't want a copy strike. But here,
grassroots movement in Canadian
I'm not sure.
history,
Am I sharing this?
where everyday men, women, and children.
2 times in one stream. I'm an idiot. Why have I not completed the share function? Add to stream. Here we go. This is the guy from Live from the Shed, David.
Convoy to Ottawa was the single greatest grassroots movement in Canadian history, where everyday men, women, and children of every walk of life, every language, every province, every race and religion came together to take a stand for the country that we all love.
Okay, I'm going to pause it there because I don't want a problem. And I just accidentally shared my Twitter. Okay, get that out of here. I'm going to do this. I'm going to close this, and I'm going to put the link to the video here. Everyone, go show the video some love. Leave a comment. And if I can do this quickly enough, I'm going to go pin that comment right now. It's a beautiful video. Shh, stop. It's a beautiful, beautiful video, and I'll pin it right here. 15 minutes. It is pinned. It's 15 minutes long. Beautiful music and a beautiful montage. So thank you. Yeah, I saw the video. It's great, and it's depressing. I'm sorry. I you know that I cry often. I try not to cry when people see, because people tend to misinterpret what tears mean. But it hurt my heart to watch it, because I'm at a point now where I'm not convinced that the best is yet to come. I said, depending on how the government shuts down that protest, it felt like an all or nothing deal at the time. And it now looks like the government is coming down with an all to make sure it amounts to nothing. Behind my head. Oh, because of these these back. Yeah, look at that. Okay, well, that's better. So that's it. That was go check it out. But that's what's going on in Canada. See, okay, but and now, by the way, Bushwriter video had the opposite effect for me. Reminds me the power of the people, and I don't want to be Black Pill Viva on a Monday morning. It reminded me of that as well. And now watching what's happening to everyone who took part in that, or a lot of the people, or the representatives of that movement, watching what the government is doing it to now, watching the government seize on that exploit of violence that never was, except from the police that they brought in, seeing what the government is doing with that now, weaponizing it to suppress freedom of speech, to suppress freedom on the internet, to weaponize the judicial system, the prosecutorial system against those involved. They broke up that protest, all right, and they broke up. Yeah, they broke it up, and now they are making an example of everybody, or the organizers. They're making an example of a handful of people. And those people may become martyrs to the followers, but they're going to be examples to the rest of Canadians. And my ultimate problem is that a lot of Canadians seem to be, well, they say it's always darkest before the dawn. A lot of Canadians are so oblivious that they actually believe that it's justified. There are still people who genuinely believe that protest was violent, misogynistic, racist, extremist. I wanted to clip some of the interviews that I conducted there, but I don't want to put specific interviewees on blast. The people I met there when I was documenting that. FE_Mar says, hear nothing, see nothing, say nothing equals blind, deaf, and dumb. Free speech for the dumb, the new Canadian bill, and demands this to be will of the land. Orwell's 1984 is a true nightmare. Thus my 2 minutes of... Nope, and people want it. You got to battle misinformation. Can you imagine the audacity of CBC, Global News, W5 talking about the government saying we got to combat misinformation because it's creating an anti-authority sentiment, and then you make up thought crimes out of whole cloth. You make up hate speech out of whole cloth. Honk, honk is hate speech. Just imagine that. And criminalize it. Hold the line is inciting mischief. It's why don't you give your wife a break and cry on air? It'll happen one day, maybe not. Okay, well, that's what's going on in Canada. Share that video live from the shed. It's beautiful. And the song is actually beautiful. It's amazing. It's a 15-minute, as far as I can tell, unedited song that weaves in the national anthem with new lyrics. It's beautiful. And a lot of drone footage. Talking about the government ruining everything. I don't want to fly a drone anymore. Got to have $1 million life insurance, not life. You got to have $1 million liability insurance to fly a drone. Okay, what do we want to do now? Do we want to do Elon Musk or Gibson's Bakery? Hold on, let's just put it to a random poll, and then I reserve the right to not even listen to it. 1, Gibson's Bakery. 2, no, we're going to do Gibson's because I think people are interested in the Elon Musk. Oh, sorry, people. Sorry. Damn it. Okay, let's go Oberlin. Do I do the article? Let's do the article first, so that we're just going to summarize this real quick, and then I'm going to go through some paragraphs. I took notes. Put these over here. Actually, the only reason I want to highlight this: Oberlin College loses appeal against $25 million libel judgment from suit filed by local bakery. Don't care about anything in Hollywood. Get away from me. I like Denzel Washington's quotes. I don't like anything else. Okay, they've upheld the $25 million judgment for business that successfully claimed it was libeled by Oberlin College in the aftermath of a shoplifting incident that roiled the historic liberal arts school and music conservatory campus outside Cleveland. What? Talk about whitewashing the egregiousness of what? Forget that. The only thing I want to go to, we'll get to it. Oh, yada, yada, yada. Yada, yada, yada. The bisque was okay. The 3-judge panel also agreed with Lorain County Judge John Moraldi's decision, rejecting Oberlin's college motion for a new trial and they denied the store owner's claim that the damages awarded did not sufficiently punish the school. We'll get to that. The only thing that I wanted to highlight in all of this right here, people say, they scored a payday. 2 of the members of the Gibson family died because this took so long. Someone dies at 93. That was Alan Gibson. I think blessed is he or she who lives to 93. David Gibson died in 2019 at 65. My father-in-law passed away from cancer at 62. And that's too young. 65 is too young. We should be thankful for every day on earth. But that doesn't, I'm not going to lie, that doesn't mean not being resentful for lives cut way too short. And cut way too short, I would just argue that having lived through what Oberlin did to Gibson Bakery, a family-owned business that was bankrupted as a result of what Oberlin did, said, incited others to do, that will put people in an early grave. Without question. Nobody understands. Everyone thinks litigation is fun. Litigation, what did I just do? I hope I just close down the stream. Litigation is not fun. It's endless stress. But setting aside the litigation part, having your lives, your livelihoods, your reputations, your very integrity, the only thing that you leave behind, sorry, I screwed up my own expression. The only thing that you take with you in this life is what you leave behind. That is your integrity. That is your reputation. And what they did to the Gibson's Bakery, well, let's just see what they did to Gibson's Bakery. Stage 4 at 56, time to fight. And it's first of all, I love that dog in the back. It's the thing of life is that, your life is filled with all sorts of projects, life projects, and then you get news where your new life project becomes a literal existential fight against something that blindsides you. And it becomes now your purpose in life is to fight this. So Godspeed and God bless, Mike. Does everyone know Pee Wee? There was an amazing channel that I was following for the longest time. Pee Wee Tom. Pee Wee Tom. Pee Wee Tom. Yep. Well, I'll just do this. If anybody doesn't know, Pee Wee Tom's was a young man diagnosed with cancer, and he documented his life and ultimately his death from cancer. Mhm. White pill for Viva. Believe in the triumph of the human spirit. Tyranny cannot win as long as information continues to awaken the people. That's the problem. And what do you have to do to control the free flow of information? Demonize everyone and anyone who disseminates it. So Pee Wee Tom had a channel documenting it. It's tragic. I don't even know why I thought about that. But yes, but that was it. So your other plans of life put on hiatus, and the plan of life for those who are afflicted with any tragedy, it's becomes to fight that, survive that, thrive beyond that. So to say that the stress of litigation is one thing, to the stress of having your life ruined, your reputation ruined, because you can't overestimate the toll that takes on one's health. So let's go here. Let's just go. Gibson's Bakery. This is the judgment. Let me see if we can see this properly. Just going to highlight. It serves for reminder. I can't see the. Oh, I can see the super chats while I do this. Actually, paragraph 8 and 9. So, okay, both parties were appealing the decision. The decision, for those of you who don't recall, jury condemnation unanimous, guilt. There were monetary damages of, I want to say $11 million, and punitive damages of $33 million, because there was some cap at 3 times the monetary damages for punitive damages. It was reduced from 44 million to 25 million. Yes, that's a lot of money, but you ask any of these people, I'm sure Gibson's Bakery, we just wanted to have the life we had before. $25 million is nice. And to go back to my recurring quote from Good Will Hunting, oh geez, I always forget her name. It has an M in it. Minnie Driver, talking about her, getting an insurance payout from her father's early death. Trade it all for another day with him. Okay, the controversy in this case, this is where we are, paragraph 8, people, arose following an incident at the bakery. Remember how USA Today summarily described that? The controversy in this case arose following an incident. What's my problem here? An incident at the bakery on November 9th. Although media coverage may have included other details about the incident, this court is confined to reviewing the record before an appeal. Standard rules, there's no new evidence on an appeal, typically, unless you make a motion to adduce new evidence for compelling and extraordinary reasons. According to testimony admitted at the hearing, 3 African-American Oberlin students, 1 male and 2 female, were in the bakery while young Alan, I think that's the younger one, not the deceased young one, was working. Young Alan later informed the police that he confronted, if that is the Alan that passed away at 65, someone in the chat, let me know. Young Alan later informed the police that he confronted the male student because he believed that the student was shoplifting wine and using a fake ID to purchase more alcohol. That male student fled the store, and young Alan chased him across the street to apprehend and detain him for the police to arrive. When a police officer responded to the scene, he observed that 2 female students also became involved in the physical altercation between young Alan and the male student. 1 screen, 2 films. Some people see this as young Alan physically assaulting a young African-American student who did nothing wrong. Others see this as 3-on-1, the people who were shoplifting and allegedly using a fake ID to procure alcohol then proceeded to assault young Alan. The police arrested the 3 students. The students eventually entered guilty pleas and were convicted for their roles in the incident. Then listen to this. And you want to talk about what Oberlin did, the most liberal of liberal schools. And I say liberal doesn't necessarily mean being dishonest, malicious liars, but for Oberlin, apparently that's what it means. Several college administrators testified that rumors about this incident at the bakery quickly reached members of the student body, because many Oberlin students apparently believed that the 3 students had been racially profiled by young Alan. They announced they planned to hold a protest outside the bakery at 11 the following day, and the record does not disclose details about who prepared the flyer. A 1-page flyer was prepared to be distributed during the protest. The flyer urged a boycott. The bakery had been there for I think 100 years, if not over 100 years. I think if it's not 100 years, it's a long time without incidents. But the flyer urged a boycott of the bakery, asserting that it was a racist establishment with a long account of racial profiling and discrimination. emphasis in original. The flyer also gave account of the heinous event involving the owners of the establishment and stated that Alan Gibson had racially profiled the male student, improperly chased him out of the store, and assaulted him. Paragraph 29 is the next one that I had of interest. Oh, this is the this is what was in the flyer. And so, you know, it's not just that Oberlin tolerated this. The student Senate passed a resolution, which we have in paragraph 30. The Senate resolution was passed by the Student Senate on November 10, 2016. It urged students to cease all support of the bakery and called upon the faculty and administration of the college to condemn the treatment of students of color by Gibson's Food Market and Bakery. Rather than quoting the resolution in its entirety, the court will summarize. Okay, the Senate passes this resolution, which the university, by all accounts, knew was publicly viewable and did nothing to remove it, to correct it, or to quell the animosity, which, by all accounts, was based on misinformation, to put it politely. 57 is what I had here as relevant. This is much different, a much different pace than the car vlog. So you got the Student Senate passing this resolution. You have flyers being handed out, which it's not clear who put them. But Oberlin's role in all of this was not merely that of a passive observer. Shortly after the Gibsons filed the lawsuit, Raimondo, who was the dean, I believe at the time, asked members of the Student Senate to remove the resolution from this. That's over a year, I believe, which they did. A reasonable juror could also infer from the evidence that Raimondo, as the faculty advisor, had the authority and or obligation to instruct the Student Senate to remove the resolution many months earlier. Therefore, they're basically just saying, like, we've seen all the evidence. We don't determine that there was any mistake in all of this. And, you know, Oberlin said that it was called a judgment notwithstanding verdict. They said that, fine, the jury came to a unanimous verdict, but the judge should dismiss that, toss it, set it aside for a number of reasons, because this should have been dismissed on its face because Oberlin didn't do anything defamatory. Oberlin didn't interfere with business relationship. And the appeals court said, no. You know what, let me take a pause there for 1 second and just see what we've got going on in the chat. Okay, we've got something on C11. All real speech is hate speech. All acceptable speech is pleasantries or rhetoric. Keep speaking. This is the thing. I won't say hate speech. There are already laws against hate speech in the actual sense of hate speech. There's laws against threat. There's laws against targeted harassment. There's laws against defamation. So, you know, Tacitus is what it was. More laws, less justice. We got that. So that, you know, Oberlin tried to appeal it. They say, oh, the judge should have dismissed this notwithstanding the conviction. The judge should have dismissed this on a motion to dismiss because there was no defamation. To which the Court of Appeal rightly, in my book, said, no freaking way, but in judicial terms. 63, what did 63 say? Oh, interference with business relationships. Wait, it's not just that Oberlin actively participated in the demonizing, the libel of this bakery. You know, they then went and said to other third parties, stop doing business with Gibson's Bakery. After the jury trial, judgment was granted on behalf of Oberlin, but against Raimondo and the Gibsons' claims for intentional interference with business relationship. Oberlin argued in its motion for judgment notwithstanding verdict that based on the evidence presented at trial, Raimondo also should have been granted judgment on this claim. The torts of interference with business relationships and contracts rightly generally occur when a person without privilege to do so induces or otherwise purposely causes a third person not to enter into or continue a business relationship with another. Now, let me just see where they describe what they did, because it's just atrocious. Here we go. Listen to this, people. Listen. I really suck at highlighting today. Forget it. We're not doing it live. The Gibsons presented several printed text and email messages between senior college administrators to demonstrate that nearly a year after the bakery incident, they did not believe that the college should work with the Gibsons to resolve the situation. Oberlin's witnesses did not dispute that the printed messages had been communicated between the administrators. One text message sent by the interim assistant dean expressed that the criminal conviction of the 3 students was an egregious process, and that she hoped the college would, quote, rain fire and brimstone on the bakery. Can you imagine this? This is, they get robbed, or they get shoplifted from. The individuals plead guilty. They probably got a slap on the wrist regardless. This is not shoplifting is not a victimless crime, but there are worse crimes. They get victimized by the shoplifting, and then they get victimized for availing themselves of their rights to the point where Oberlin administrators in private text rain fire and brimstone on the bakery. In response to a published letter from a retired Oberlin professor who criticized Oberlin's response to the college's situation with the Gibsons, Raimondo stated in another text message, F him. I'd say unleash the students if I wasn't convinced this needs to be put behind us. The Gibsons presented other messages that were communicated between senior administrators that also expressed their lack of concern about the past and ongoing damages suffered by the Gibsons. Can you believe that? And they appealed this decision. I mean, God, oh, hold on. Wait until we get to the damages part, because it's a lot of money. Construing this evidence in favor of the Gibsons, this court cannot conclude that reasonable minds could only conclude that this conduct failed to rise to the level of extreme and outrageous. Therefore, this is a backward sentence. It was extreme and outrageous. A reasonable person could have concluded that. Therefore, the trial did not err in denying the JONV on this basis. Then we get into the punitive damages. Finally, Oberlin argues that the trial court erred in denying its motion for judgment notwithstanding verdict, in that it should not have been allowed to consider an award of punitive damages in the bifurcation. It's complicated. It's sort of, do we want to get into it? Oberlin alleges that because the jury had already found no actual malice in the liability stage of the trial, it was improper to further consider punitive damages on the libel claim. So here, and it's an interesting thing, we don't really need to get into it, but no malice. First of all, if that's not malice, what we just read before, I don't know what is. But what the judge basically came to the conclusion is, this was calling someone racist and saying they have a long history of racism is defamation per se. And the court concluded that under the law here, when it's defamation per se, there's a presumption of malice and you don't need to actually prove it. So no go. End of discussion. But let's just get the part which, we don't need to read this. This is too technical. And then 88, what was on 88? Oh, well, this is the legal part. Because Oberlin did not request bifurcation, however, after compensatory damages were awarded by the jury, the Gibsons were entitled to proceed to the second stage of trial and put on every evidence they had pertaining to punitive damages for each of their claims: defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and tortious interference with business relationships. Because Oberlin specifically said it to a third party, don't do business with them anymore, and that third party stopped doing business with Oberlin. All right, and then I think we can skip the rest. It's just the facts of this case and the egregious conduct of Oberlin and its employees. It's up to you whether or not you want to forgive it, but it should never be forgotten. Compensatory damages. Oberlin argued that even applying the damages cap, the award is still exorbitant. It argues that there was no witness testimony as to any losses caused by the flyer or resolution. It also argued that any economic loss caused by the illegal hostile environment, the alleged hostile environment created by the protest was merely speculative. They went out of business. They had been in business for decades, including the belief that the harm would continue for 30 years. The Gibsons argued that they presented sufficient evidence of their damages, as well as the fact that it flowed from Oberlin's tortious conduct. And they agreed. But 124, where was it? They talk about the percentage of Oberlin's net assets that this related to. Hold on here. Here we go. The Gibsons note that the jury initially awarded them $11 million in compensatory damages and $33 million in punitive. They assert that the jury's punitive damages award represents less than 3% of Oberlin's total assets. Noting that the purpose of punitive damages is to appropriately punish and deter defendants, the Gibsons argue that a purely okay, whatever. They say it only represents 3% of their total assets, so it should make it more so that it's really effective. And the judge said, no. not the law, and it doesn't matter. But can you appreciate, by the way, 3% of Oberlin's total assets? That means that's a substantial portion. 3%. I mean, when Facebook and the other tech giants, Gibson's Bakery is still in business. Hold on one second. I'm going to go fact check myself in real time. Hold on, people. Gibson's Bakery. I'm looking up bankrupt because I thought they closed. 11 million. Hold on. Gibson's Bakery closes. When did they close down during this? Hold on. I will verify that. If it is still in business, there was the issue, but there was the issue of the damages, and they were determining how much that business was worth at the time. Okay, hold on one second. I will correct myself if that is the case, because I don't like being wrong. Give me 30 seconds. Oh, they seem to be open, so that's good. Okay, so I'm gonna double check what it is exactly that they closed down, for how long they closed down, because I do believe they closed down at one point. That was part of the damages. Let me see if anybody in the chat who knows better knows. Okay, they may have closed temporarily, but I'm not sure about that. Okay, I'm certain they did, because they had no business and they lost their contract. And the issue about damages during the trial was that how do you assess the value of a business that had been around for a century? Okay, well, it was important fact, but not determinant to the outcome, which is $25 million damage against Oberlin, which means the donors, the philanthropists, what are they called? The people who support the institution are now paying off the consequences of the most egregious, hateful, malicious, spiteful conduct imaginable. I don't want to use the standard expression. There should be consequences for this. Everyone involved in this should probably trustees. Everyone involved in this people should vote with their dollar. I do know people who announced that they would not support Oberlin through donations because of this, but they're gonna live with the consequences of what they did, because it was egregious, and I don't know if it's unforgivable, but it's unforgettable. Okay, let's just see. I just want to see if anybody knows. Gibson's whiskey is not bad. It's let's just see here. 30 seconds expired. Okay, no, so that's the Gibson's. I don't think it goes anywhere else from. I mean, I don't know that it goes anywhere else from here. Technically, there's always an appeal to the Supreme Court. Not sure what novel questions of law there are here. And bottom line, affirming the jury's findings, there have to be some very egregious mistakes or very important questions of law. So I don't know. I think it's over here. And congratulations, Oberlin. Everything woke. If it doesn't go broke, it certainly gets 3% of your assets to pay the damages of your actions. All right. Now, with that said, let us go to the news of the day. Why do I not have the story open? I don't have the story open. Elon Musk, Twitter, people. Elon Musk buys 9%. Do I want to? No. No. Who do we do here? Let's go here. All garbage. All garbage. News you can trust? No, thank you. Elon Musk snaps up $3 billion in Twitter. It's amazing. Common shares. Common open market voting shares. Let's just read this, and then we're going to discuss what this means and what it doesn't mean and why it's interesting. Elon Musk has taken a 9.2% stake in Twitter, according to a U.S. securities filing. The news sent the shares soaring 25% in pre-market trading. Darn it. And it doesn't matter. I don't care. everything I buy. I couldn't buy Twitter regardless because I don't believe in the company. I bought GoPro, and I think I'm still down on GoPro, but it's still in business, which is good. The Tesla founder bought 73 million and change on March 14, according to Securities and Exchange Commission, $2.9 billion. The stake makes him the largest shareholder in the company and is more than 4 times the 2.25% holding of Dorsey, which means that between the two of them, well, they're over 10%, but that's not, it's relevant for voting. We'll get into what it kind of means. And, it goes, here we go. It goes back to his tweets. Is a new platform needed? He tweeted this out. It seems there's a problem with Twitter. What do we do? Cernovich, Tim Pool said, buy it. I think they meant tongue in cheek, or take it over. He bought a 10% shareholding in it. So it's interesting, but what does it mean and what does it not mean? There are just corporate 101. At least my understanding of Canadian law, I think it's similar in the United States. There's a reason why he didn't buy 10% or more, and that's because I believe it changes his status within the company to an insider, if I'm not mistaken, but holding more than 10% of a publicly traded company subjects you to different rules and regulations. Hold on. Here, SEC. Officers, directors, and shareholders. I think this is it. Beneficial. If your company has registered a class of its equity securities under the Exchange Act, shareholders who acquire more than 5% of the outstanding shares of that class must file beneficial ownership. Okay, that's a filing. And then section 16. Who own more than 10%, they must register as insiders. So I think that subjects them to certain regulations that, there may be no vest. How do I get out of here? Oh, gosh darn it. Hold on. Close this. There's probably a good reason why Elon doesn't want to be a 10% or more shareholder in the company. We seem to still be on the old thing there. And then, just like, what does it mean? What does it not mean? Under 10%, not subject to certain regulations, subject to certain filings, which is why people now know about him buying over 5%, I presume. But for anybody who doesn't know, if you own shares in a publicly traded company, every now and again, you get these notices in the mail, shareholder meetings where you can go and make your voice heard as a shareholder in the company. But typically when you own, I don't know, a few shares of an outstanding float, which is the amount of shares that are issued to the public, your voice, most people don't even go to these shareholder meetings because you have, it's fun for the experience, but you won't have an impact, although you get to make your voice heard. Elon is the world's richest troll and man. The whole thing is about the return of Trump. 93 million followers is 93 million interactions in stock market jargon. Let history record this super chat. And I will tweet it at Elon Musk after we're done here. No, but there's a little bit more to it. I think under 10%, he's not a controlling shareholder. There could have been other ways of acquiring an interest in the company that might have given him more of a voice. But just for the corporate side of this, shoot, I thought I just stopped the stream. I'm an idiot. I did. Jeez Louise, Viva. Share screen. Do not take yourself out of the stream. What does a shareholder do? This is not legal advice, people. It's just the 101, so you can appreciate it. Let me make sure we're looking at the same thing here. We are, minimize, go back here. A shareholder, also known as, this is from upcouncil.com. This is like basic 101 level stuff. A shareholder, also known as a stockholder, participates in the management of a company. A shareholder is an individual, institution, or company that owns a share. So preferred dividends, securities, common stock. Elon bought common stock. What does a shareholder do? They participate in the management of the company. Bottom line, they vote in the management. They approve the financials at the end of the year. They have some oversight in the company. They have their say into certain managerial aspects of the company. But when you don't have a controlling interest in a company, you don't get to control who is appointed to the board of directors. You don't get to appoint the officers of the company. You get to vote, but you don't get the controlling vote. If there's no controlling vote, it's sort of democratized. If there's majority controlling, if there's majority shareholders who among all of their minority shareholdings control the vote, that's how you control it. If you want to maintain control over your publicly traded company or your own company, you retain whatever is the controlling interest in whatever jurisdiction you live in, so that everybody else gets to vote on certain issues that are subject to the vote of common shareholders, but you don't get your vote trumped by the majority. So he gets to now have a say. And at just under 10%, he doesn't have a majority say. He doesn't have a controlling say, but he's got a very big say. And then, even more interesting than that, though, some people appreciate this, other people don't, until you get screwed by, a mining company, for example, that however minor, however small your shareholding is, minority shareholders, and Elon Musk is a big minority shareholder, you have rights. And you have rights to ensure that the company does not act in a way that, as we say in the industry, oppresses your minority shareholding rights. So let's just say, for example, Robert Barnes and I have discussed this with Rumble. They're going public. If a company goes public on certain warranties and representations, if a company makes certain public representations that induces people to invest, those people you're never going to be a majority shareholder in Rumble. You're never going to be a majority shareholder in, Twitter. But if Twitter makes public statements that induce people to become shareholders and minority shareholders, and then they go ahead and violate those warranties and representations in a manner that affects the price of the stock, and it might only affect common stock. If they do that and it impacts the minority shareholder interest by devaluing their stocks, by violating the warranties and representation that induced the shareholders to acquire the stocks in the first place, you have rights and remedies. Elon Musk, even though he only has a minority shareholder stake, a big one, he's now a minority shareholder in Twitter. And if Twitter behaves itself in a manner that goes against its bylaws, that violates its public statements, that goes against the interests of the minority shareholders, well, Elon Musk has certain rights and recourses as a minority shareholder in this company to take legal action. Twitter is now not beholden to Elon any more than anybody else, but now has to answer to potential shareholder oppression that minority shareholders may argue they are victims of if Twitter does certain things that compromise its share price. One of which might have been booting one of its most popular Twitter people. You imagine, I don't think it's good for the stock. I don't think it's good for the company, despite all of the, won't someone think of the children, to boot Donald Trump from the platform. And if the decision to do that affects shareholder price, well, people who believe that they have been oppressed by that decision, have had their shareholder rights violated, they have rights and recourses. Most people don't have billions of dollars to initiate oppression remedies. Elon Musk does. So it's a big babysitter that has just bought his way into the company. Tweet that Granny Fro to the world, Viva. I will do it. So it's very interesting. Oh, only 4,000 watching and 1,500 likes. Let me see who's watching on the Rumbles. I've gotten tweet. Oh, live at 1:30 Ontario time, room 14V, line 14 on docket. What number do I call? ? People, this might turn into another. I need to get an earbud for my phone because I can't do it without an earbud. We'll see if I can get in on the Pat King hearing. I'm just going to listen to it and live mouth tweet what's going on. Oh yeah, tweet thumbs up and comment. You know what to do. Share away. But let me go see the Rumble. The Rumble. We're on Rumble. Nearly 2,000 watching on Rumble. Very, very nice. And no Rumble rants, but let's just get some of the chat. We love you. Let's go. The Weeds. Back to normal trading the way it was because no more unipolar world. Okay. It's literally us versus them. Chili Boo Revolution. Viva looking at the Rumbles from Clyde. And now someone put that in there. I don't know what exactly that says. Dude, it looks like Bucket List or Bo Mickey. Buddhist Mickey. I don't know. If you're watching on YouTube, you're suspect. You're suspect. The weeds. Okay, so let me see if I actually can't get people are working. Yes. Who would have thunk that this would have actually become? I call it work. I love it. When you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. My only stresses in the world is I want to be value added and not repetitive. So I'm gonna see if I can get. Ooh, that's not the call I was looking for. What number do I call? Okay, I cannot. Do we? Anyone in the chat? Let's see if anyone in the chat can get the dial-in number for Pat King's hearing today. Let's see if we can do this in real time with the power of the interwebs, people. I'm going to Google this. I'm going to talk while I do it. I go, Pat King, today, live hearing. And we see Pat King Convoy. Pat King Convoy. We're going to go to news. Pat King, 2 weeks ago. It's going to be very tough to get this live dial-in. Oh, there we go. Pat King. Twitter. Glenn McGregor. Is this a new tweet? It says it's about to take place. That's February 22nd. That's not today. Okay, people. I don't know if everybody wants to see me do this in real time. Let's see if we can get this done. I'm going to ask my brother. He should probably know. Do you know what the number is to call in for Pat King hearing? Question mark. Now I see a number in the chat. So when it has, everyone's just dialing random numbers. Viva Frei is way more fun than doing business taxes. I concur. I don't know many things, but I know that. Okay, that's not the number. This is not the number. No postal code. No area code is a surefire indication we are being trolled. Although, is that the number from the Squid Games? There was a whole funny thing about Squid Game. The telephone number in there with no area code was getting absolutely trolled. Elon may hate Trump. It's irrelevant. The basic fact of Trump back on Twitter makes him a considerable profit. They didn't put Trump back on Twitter yet, did I? I quit my job to watch. As your attorney, I highly recommend against doing that. At the very least, do it on the job until you get into trouble. I'm joking. 1-800-GRANNY-FRO is not that. Come on, people. Okay. So let me just go see while we're doing this on Twitter. I don't think it's going to be... okay, we're going to take 30 seconds to try to do it properly. Pat King hearing today. Okay, we're going to start slow. What's the date today? We're April, so it has to be April. And it has to be news. Pat King, maybe it's going to be bail hearing today. Okay. Zoom. See, it says the Zoom was maxed the last time, which I presume. Oh, here we go. We got Reddit. Oh, no. So Reddit, and there's a Reddit, and they say, Pat King, wondering if anyone has the Zoom link for information. This was 91% upvoted. Endless waste, and then there's advertising under it. So let's go to the comments on the Reddit. Man, view entire discussion. Okay, I do not see any call-in on Reddit. And for as much as I do not like that place, they are referring to a tweet from Glenn McGregor. And I can't find it. Okay, if I do happen to get the the link, I'll get it up. All right, people. What else? Anyone have any questions in the chat before I try to rude chat today? It doesn't matter. People are entitled to express themselves, even if they call me names. And I don't know. I haven't seen any really rude stuff in the chat today, but that you cannot express your own opinion and then expect others not to express theirs. Now, targeted harassment, threats of violence, and Russian sex bots. That's a no-go. Well, I asked Amber. Okay, well, let's just see if there's not. There's going to be another interesting thing to talk about while we wait. Let's go share screen. Chrome tab. My phone just shook. No, did you ask? another individual. Let me see here. I'm going to ask another individual. Do you happen to know what the call-in number is today for Pat King hearing? ? So we got the Pat King hearing in Ottawa. That's the Reddit subreddit. New environmental minister. Let's just go to Twitter for 1 second, because this is my running diary of life now. Ooh, I'm not in incognito. This is dangerous. Let's just get one story. That was Russell Brand we talked about. Don't care about Justin Bieber. The news cycle. You want to talk about this stuff? I mean, I just can't get over this. And this might break us into the consequences of the pandemic and the lockdowns. Jagmeet Singh. Hold on, the phone is going to talk. I hate that phone. I'm going to get rid of that phone. Mental care is healthcare. This announcement by Andrew Horwath and her team, Horvath, I guess it's pronounced, and her team holds the power to save so many lives. This is coming from the individual. I'm not a bot troll or whatever they call them, what do they call the bots who live off someone else's Twitter feed? I do have to call out the idiotic hypocrisy when I see it. This is Jagmeet Singh, who now formed a holy alliance of evil with Justin Trudeau, who have been locking people down, and we're now seeing the outcome of the harms of the lockdowns, specifically on the young. And this guy is coming out now and saying mental health care is healthcare. I agree with you. So that means, by definition, that mental health abuse is health abuse. It's abuse. Abuse of which you are guilty, Jagmeet. And for those of you who don't know the latest stats on thoughts of self-harm on young people, let's just get the latest. I can't. NCBI. No, that won't be it. I want to get news. I don't want to get studies. News. I'm going to pull it from the Jerusalem Post, but I saw it somewhere else. Who could have thunk that any of this could have ever possibly happened? Share screen, Chrome tab. COVID, do we see this? No, I think I got to go like this. No, I got to go full screen. COVID-19, by the way, not COVID-19 government measures. COVID-19 drastically impacted mental health of teens and young adults. Various studies released over the last 2 years have indicated as such. Teens and young adults are among those hit the hardest by pandemic-related mental health issues. No. You whitewashing, misleading, fake news, Jerusalem Post this time. Not pandemic-related. Government-imposed restrictions related. It wasn't the pandemic that did it. But notice, maybe later. Throughout the past 2 years, the world has experienced immeasurable losses as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic. No. Yes and no. But what we're talking about here, I'm going to venture out and say it's probably not related to the Rona itself, but what the government did to the young, the healthy, those who were statistically not at risk, and it was known well long ago. To date, there have been 1 million recorded deaths, 500 million registered coronavirus cases overall. In addition to this, there is much that needs to be learned about the long-term impact of the virus. Yada, yada, yada. Another long-term effect of the pandemic has been largely overlooked in its impact on mental health. Another long-term effect of the coronavirus pandemic. It's amazing how they just won't say what it is. That has been largely overlooked. No, by the way, it wasn't overlooked. It was actually denied. CBC came out with articles saying certain rates of self-harm have actually gone down during the pandemic. As if that's how you measure it, besides. But as if that was logical and consistent. Distress calls have gone up 200%. But somehow, hey, this has actually been good on mental health, on certain types of self-harm. Various studies over the last 2 years have indicated As such, teens and young adults are among those hit hardest by pandemic-related mental health issues. A new report by the CDC at the end of March worked to illuminate the mental health issues that teens are dealing with as a result of the pandemic. According to the data, 37% of all high school students in 2021 reported experiencing poor mental health as a result of the pandemic, and 44% stated they felt persistently sad or hopeless throughout I'm going to get angry throughout the last year. Gee, I wonder why. It's because of the pandemic. It's not because of the fact that they were kept home from school, isolated from their friends, isolated from their family, basically made to fear that they were vectors of infection, that they were going to kill Granny if they went to see them. They were branded as the scarlet letters of the vectors of communication to the most vulnerable people on earth who were getting ill. And what did the government think was the proper response to this? Keep them home from school. Keep the kids who were being demonized and branded as the vectors of communication to the vulnerable. Keep them home with the vulnerable and with the elderly. I mean, let that sink in. And I'm happy to say our channel, if you have been watching from the beginning, Barnes was right. Barnes said, this response doesn't make any sense. You've got working parents who now have kids at home. What are they going to do? They're going to call Granny to come babysit. Prior to the pandemic, CDC data from 2019 showed that 36% of teens reported feeling persistent sadness or hopeless, showing a rise in the number of students struggling with mental health issues. Data from 2019. So they're trying to say, oh, this was ongoing beforehand. According to the CDC statistics, over 55% of youth stated that they had experienced emotional abuse by parents or other adults at home, experiencing events such as being sworn at, insulted, or demeaned. Anybody been watching the channel for long enough, you knew that we were talking about this. Spousal abuse, child abuse. You imagine people who are already living in abusive relationships were now being locked down with the perpetrators of that abuse. An additional 11% reported to have experienced physical abuse. Who could have seen that coming? Especially, what would exacerbate an already abusive individual? Put them out of work, lock them at home, take their job away. I mean, there's nothing that excuses physical abuse. There are things that are known to exacerbate already criminal abuse. Locking people in a home together, taking away their jobs. I mean, who could have seen this coming? But we were told that if you questioned any of this, you wanted Granny to die. Over a quarter of high school students reported that a parent or an adult in the home had lost their job as a result of the pandemic. Poor mental health was reported at a greater level among LGBTQ plus youth, many of whom faced emotional abuse at the hands of parent or caregiver. Oh, but now these are the same groups that the government is purporting to want to help. Sure, we're sorry about what we've done to you. Empower us to fix the problem that we caused. What could have been done to prevent the decline in mental health? According to the CDC findings, teens who felt connected to their teachers and peers from school were less likely to have suffered from declining mental health. Who would have thought that community, a sense of inclusion, a sense of involvement, a sense of purpose, freedom, who would have thought that these things are contributive to mental wellness? Who would have thought about it? I mean, not me. Who would have thought that locking kids down could be problematic, isolating kids who might already have mental issues? Who would have thought that taking people out of their community, demonizing them to their community, making them feel like threats by their own existence could have done damage? Who would have thought? Anybody watching this channel would have thought this, would have known this from the beginning. Well, the COVID-19 pandemic has created traumatic stressors that have the potential to further erode students' mental well-being. Our research shows that surrounding youth with the proper support can reverse these trends and help. Do it now. Remember, everybody, we talked about this. The government was shutting down AA meetings. The government was shutting down rehab sessions. The government was shutting down church, synagogue. That picture is bothering me. I'm going to close this up now. Oh yeah, no, trust us now. We're gonna solve the problem we created. Yeah. Pat King bail hearing is about to resume, but the Zoom call was max capacity and the Justice of the Peace couldn't get on. So they shut it down for now. Well, isn't that convenient? Although the funny thing is, I read that Pat King himself didn't want it, was angry that people were live streaming it, which I'm sure he was. I can only imagine a few reasons why Pat King would not want it to be broadcast. Have I gone fishing lately? No. I did go for a dunk in the icy water yesterday, but no, the ice is not yet out. So it's in between being able to ice fish, which ice fishing on Lake Champlain is good, but not anywhere near as good as the spring fishing on Lake Champlain. So the ice is not yet out. Even when the ice goes out, the water needs to turn, so to speak. So before the fishing gets good. But this year, my goal is to go fishing and to catch a walleye, because I have caught only one walleye in my entire life. And it was by accident when I rented a dinghy on a road trip in Ontario. I forget where. Freedom is not just a beautiful thing. It's a necessary thing. You know, there's a reason why animals in zoos, when they're in captivity, they revert to this repetitive behavior, you know, walking in circles, constant nodding. If you've ever seen elephants do it, the more intelligent, and I say that without being a speciesist, the more intelligent the animal, the more you notice this behavior when their captivity is sufficiently restrained. I went to the Bronx Zoo. It was either the Brooklyn Zoo or the Bronx Zoo, where there was a zebra in an enclosure and the backdrop was like a crappy painting of the savannah. And that zebra was like just swaying its head. It was depressing. But humans are no different. You lock people in houses, and you lock people in small apartments, and you take away their jobs, and then you think that you're doing them a favor by compensating them $2,000 a month, while simultaneously promoting online gambling. Check this out, people. This is going to be a meandering François Legault online gambling tweets. Let me see here. Let me see. I know that I commented on it at the time. Oh, we got. Doesn't matter. While they're locking people in their homes, the Quebec government is promoting online gambling. While they're shutting people out of rehab, out of AA, out of Gambling Anonymous, they're promoting online gambling, and the Premier of Quebec telling people to go have a drink. People need to de-stress. So freedom is not just beautiful. It's essential for humans. It's what we are. Freedom. We are free, creative beings. And when you strip people of that, you crush them and you destroy them. And there's no question about it. It was the pandemic. It was COVID that did it. It had nothing to do with the lockdowns. It had nothing to do with the face masks. It had nothing to do with the social isolation. It had nothing to do with destroying what were the pillars of society: religion, family, school. Had nothing to do with that. It was the pandemic. Now we can wash our hands of it, and we can pretend to be the solution to the problem that we caused. Signed, the government. All right. Well, there's that. What else was there? Who's got some? Take some questions in the chat if anybody's got any. Let's see. You got to check out Pee Wee Tom's channel for anybody. It's the most depressing thing ever, but it's the most real life documenting the battle that he faced. Oh, so that's it. I don't think we're going to get on Pat King, but actually, let's just see. Hold on 1 second. If we can't find a live tweet, Pat King live tweet bail hearing. There was that reporter. Yeah, Glenn McGregor. Let's just see here. If I go to Glenn McGregor, see if he's got anything today. 32 seconds ago. Here we go. People, this might be fun. This might be fun. I wish I could get in, but hold on. Before there, I see a 514, so I have to actually get to him. Oh, look up the Artur. Oh, so Artur Pawlowski, Rebel News covered it. I didn't yet see their coverage. I just saw the story in my email. I have the Zoom link. Deuce Go Tech Put it in there. I'm going to be looking for it, and I'll see if I can get in. Yeah, go check out Rebel News. It's okay. Deuce Go Tech. How do we do this? I'm looking out for Deuce Go Tech LX, but I saw a 514. Here we go. I joined very late. Did you discuss Artur Pawlowski? Yes. Was it the first thing we discussed? I think it was. Or so. What is the news? He's released on bail. He was released on bail, and the terms of the release are egregious. Okay, let me just see here. I'm looking for Deuce. What the deuce? Did they actually have a warrant to arrest Tamara Licht? I don't think she was in the act of counseling when she was arrested. No, I don't think she was in the process of doing it when she was arrested. But they do their investigation, they get their charges issued, and then they get a warrant. And the warrant was based on statements she made. I believe Hold the Line was one of them. So yeah, no, they had the warrant. I don't think the arrest was unlawful. I mean, I don't think the arrest was unlawful procedurally. I just think substantively it was over the top. David, thank you for being a part of this great movement. Watching, reliving it again live from the shed. Yeah, it was. I'm not gonna pretend that watching that video made me feel good, because it didn't. It made me feel very sad, and it made me feel like the government did what they wanted. They suffocated out what I felt to be the last chance for freedom in this country. I hope I'm wrong. Viva made me think I was watching Ancient Aliens. Okay, now here we go. Bas Studios. Pierre Poilievre saw him 2 days ago. His speech was almost 100% Bernier's, so much so he even closed with the same Diefenbaker quote. Thoughts on PP? I don't mind Pierre Poilievre as a politician. I commended him when he was grilling Justin Trudeau. I don't mind Roman Baber as a politician. I commended him when he was very vocal in his opposition to what I believe were unconstitutional and unscientific COVID responses. I will not support either of them for leadership. I might support one of them for leadership of the Conservative Party, but I'm not voting Conservative. They have to do more than empty talk promises. They actually have to do something to earn the vote, not promise to earn the vote and then expect you to operate on trust, which they have violated. They have violated it because Pierre Poilievre was part of the party when Aaron O'Toole was as liberal as the Liberals. He didn't speak out about it against the party leader. He didn't condemn O'Toole for being liberal 2.0. And I don't mean liberal in terms of policy. I mean just supporting stupid liberal policies. They supported vaccine passports. The party should suffer the consequences as a result. And if Pierre Poilievre comes in and says, the first thing we're going to do, if elected, is ratify the Constitution so that there's a caveat, there's a clarification that the government cannot take away your rights, but in the absence of the most compelling, I don't know, do that, and then I'll think about, and I'll see what you do. I'm not becoming a disloyal turncoat based on promises. You might earn it based on action. You're not going to earn it based on promises. So what do I think of him? I think he was better before he started running for leadership of the party. He's starting to look, and his Twitter feed is starting to look a little bit too generically and cliched politician. Roman Baber, I think, was more ballsy in his political positions. So between the two of them taking leadership for the CPC, I would tend to think that Roman Baber might be more, might be able to change more. But they're both decent candidates for leadership, but don't expect me to vote Conservative or suggest anyone else vote Conservative. And I still don't tell anybody how to vote, period. And I don't even tell people to vote for the PPC when I was running. I just take for granted, if you're listening, you will. Okay, so let me see here. Hold on. So I was going to go share, and let's just see what the live latest update is with Glenn McGregor, who is, let me see here if we can see this. Napoleon. Okay, listen. Yes. Glenn McGregor, CTV National News. Oh, CTV. Oh, them. Yeah. All right, whatever. Let's just see here. So let's just get the update. 16 minutes ago, 31 minutes. So let's just go here. Ottawa protest Pat King and George Billings are expected in court at 1:30 today. This will not be a full bail review hearing, likely just more coordinating and scheduling. So they're going to go back to jail. Okay. I'll live tweet details unless there is a publication ban imposed. What is this? Okay, so then we got this from whatever this is. Okay. We'll go ahead and close you. So let's just see then what happened. That was 13 hours ago. Originally charged separately with mischief, King and Billings are now jointly charged with... Oh, that's right. They found new charges against all of them. Tamara Litch, Pat King. Who's the other one? Chris Barber. They found charges against Randy Hillier, not new ones. They found more charges. Originally charged separately with mischief, King and Billings are now jointly charged with various criminal code offenses, including obstructing a peace officer and counseling intimidation. Okay, so here we says 6 minutes ago. At last report, King was residing in the Ottawa Detention Center. And apparently these are very bad places. I mean, they're unpleasant. People think Canada's a nice, vacation, even for jails. Apparently this jail is not a pleasant place to be. So what's going on? There was a publication ban on the previous information. Information is the criminal complaint laid against Billings that have been withdrawn. Okay, so it doesn't look like we're getting any meaningful news here. Okay, remand back in court. And we got that one. And Kinte connects. Tyson George Billings. Jake Shotty represents. There's a publication ban on this. Can't report the details. Democracy dies in darkness. I don't know who asked for the publication ban. So if the defense asked for it, if the defense asked for the publication ban, then you got to respect the defense's wishes. They're the ones who are more... I mean, I'm not even sure. This is a criminal matter. It should be public. So JB24 keep telling Viva. What does that mean? Yeah, what the heck is counseling intimidation? What is counseling and what is intimidation? And put those two together, what on earth qualifies as counseling intimidation? All that I know is that no one can ever accuse me of counseling intimidation, because I specifically always tell people, do not break the law, period, even though that upsets people. Don't do it. Don't tell people to do it. If you want to do it, my goodness, your life is your own to take whatever risks you want to take with. But I'm curious to know how counseling intimidation materializes. What are the underlying facts of that accusation? Love to see it. I did just see a new member. Cobius, welcome to the channel. Let's see it. Outrageous that they are still in jail. Clear political prisoners. JB24. I made the tribute video. Although I appreciate the Shed sharing it, I would appreciate you post the link to the original. Thank you. 1,000%. I did not know that, JB24. So hold on. JB24, can you post the link in the comment and I will go and tweet it. I had no idea. So JB24, I'm looking for it now. I'm going to go to the live stream of this so that I can see it. And when it comes in, sound advice from Viva, don't break the law. Stop breaking the law. No, it's like everybody's a hero behind their computer screen. Yeah, you should go and get arrested if you really believe in it. Blah, blah. You do what you want with your own life at your own risk and quiet you. I don't want to hear the commercial. I'm looking for it. 24, please post the link and I'm going to find it because I didn't get the original link. You want to take a chance with your own life? That's for you to do. Now, hold on one second. Someone said, Viva, the look on your face, is this going to be a good one or a bad one? When you realized you may have won your riding, but I wonder what your face would have looked like when your naivete realizes you had a snowball's chance at Deputy PM. I can tell you exactly when it occurred. It occurred on the roof of my house when we were watching the results come in. And I was like, my goodness, I never had a chance, did I? There was never a chance. Viva, my most recent super chat. Let me see if I can find it. Look, it's not to say that it's not all that. I can't go back to the super chats. Someone post a link in the bottom, for goodness sake. It was called JB24. Hold on. JB24 tributes. Let me see if I can find it myself within 30 seconds. No, I can't because I'm not on YouTube when I'm doing that. JB24 tributes. What's it? It's not this one. Maybe it is this one. JB24. Yes, this. Okay, here. Boom shakalaka. And my apologies. I shall put this here now. I shall hit. Stop it. Stop it. I don't want the music. And I'm going to go right now. My goodness. Okay, there we go. And replace pinned message with this. Okay, done. Sorry about that. And thank you. Yeah, I remember when it was. I was on the roof and I was like, holy cows, I'm an idiot. That's like 5th time this chat. No chance. No chance because people don't even know what's going on in the news. Imagine people in New York City in 2020 during the presidential election did not know about Hunter Biden's laptop. And they didn't know about Hunter Biden's laptop. And we're going to expect anybody in my riding to make what I think would be the proper educated decision based on, oh my goodness, based on policy. I had one person when I was hanging up my posters, clearly purple posters, clearly not red liberal posters, say, you're running with the Liberal Party. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm running with the PPC. And they said, well, I'm voting liberal anyhow. Didn't even know the colors of the party they knew they were voting for, but everybody out there, I mean, it's the greatest branding of all time. If you vote for liberal, even if the leader's acting like a total tyrant, a total dictator, you get to call yourself liberal. I am liberal. I just believe that I own your body. I own your children's body. I get to tell you when you can work, where you can go, who you can see, what you can read, what you can say. But I'm liberal because I'm called liberal. Billings will be back in court on April 19, 1:30 via Zoom. Wow. Now let me just say this. I don't care who you are. If I see you without a mask indoors when infections are rampant and there are many still at risk, I will see you as an ignorant of science, narcissistic, and uncaring of the vulnerable around you. I will truly see you unmasked for what you are. Can you imagine someone who says in one tweet, I don't care who you are. If I see you without a mask, I will see you as an ignorant, uncaring narcissist. I will see an individual accusing someone else of narcissism uses the word I 4 times in one tweet to tell the world what he thinks of other people. Okay, sorry, got distracted there. So Billings is back. Wait, what's the date? 2 weeks. What's another 2 weeks of a man's life? Unbelievable. Okay, we already read that. So that's it. What's another 2 weeks? Yeah, that'll learn them. That'll learn you. And now Pat King is up from the Ontario Corrections. Cal Rosemont is off the case. King's has new lawyers, David Goodman and Nicole Charist, who are not in court. Crown says Goodman is on only for bail review in 2 weeks. So it looks like they're back. King's bail review is set. Oh my good God. Set for April 13 and April 14. King says he's currently shopping for lawyers. Whatever the outcome, King's case will be back before the court April 19th, 1:30 p.m. And that's the end of the convoy-related criminal justice today. Criminal justice, or some might say criminal injustice. This 2 more weeks in jail. February 18th. It's going to be February to March to April. 2 months in jail. They didn't even give them the opportunity to be released on bail terms that they would violate to warrant a rearrest and redetention. Shouldn't McCluskey file trespassing charges? He demanded they leave and they didn't. Is this McCluskey like the Georgia guy, the McCloskeys? I don't think they were on his physical property. They were on a private road. Have to see what the bylaws are with respect to that. But good luck charging people with trespass, for goodness sake. I mean, he got the book thrown at him for brandishing a firearm, one of which was inoperable, but was rendered operable specifically so they could press charges against Madam McCluskey. Oh, here we go. I got it. I got the call in, but it looks like it's over. Yeah, anyways, it's over. So nothing to see there except my ugly face without glasses. You'll be in the wrong courtroom at first. You might need to speak up and say, I've been placed in the wrong. Okay, whatever. It's over. So back on the 19th. What's another 2 weeks? What's another 2 weeks? I think the hearing was continued until April 19, at least according to the CTV reporter. Hold on. Yeah, I mean it's just 2 months pretrial detention for nonviolent crimes, but it was mischief, and it was obstructing a police officer. Accusations, by the way, and even if it were a violent crime, they're still innocent, legally speaking. Pretrial detention is not supposed to be pre-conviction punishment. Write that one down. That one's a good one. Trump's comeback tweet will be the biggest of all time. Leftist head will explode around the world. It might even shift the Earth's orbit. Unclear, check out that CTV reporter Twitter feed, period. He had the information of the new lawyer. No, not the new lawyer. Of the old new. Apparently they are lawyer shopping, period. And not they, he is. Okay, so that's it. Nobody wants to see me dictate tweets. Yeah, so that's it. Is Trump coming back? I mean, that's the question. Oh, the Kofefe, yeah. So let's just see what was going on in the chat here. Here in Sweden, we never had masks. Trudeau caused a massive mental break on Canadians. And you know what the argument to that was, by the way? Grazie, Henke. Thank you. Do you know what the argument to that was? Well, while Sweden did better than America for certain, and Canada, they did worse compared to their, what's the word of those countries? Not Scandinavian, I guess Scandinavian. They did worse compared to their neighbors, Denmark and blanking because I'm trying to show off that I know geography. They did worse than their neighboring countries. So they were worse than their neighboring countries because they didn't do what the neighboring countries did, what Denmark did. But they were better than America, which, do you remember at the beginning of the pandemic how people were dumping on Sweden, saying, it's going to be cataclysmic in Sweden? They had the outbreaks in the long-term healthcare facilities, as did Canada. I mean, that's where 70 to 80% of the deaths came from. But people were waiting with bated breath for Sweden to fall. The same way they were waiting for bated breath for Texas and Florida to fall. And when they don't, the moving goalposts of dishonest discourse. Well, Florida and Texas aren't doing as well as Pennsylvania and Michigan, which is wrong besides. But that's it. Well, they're not doing as well as other people who absolutely sacrificed and destroyed everything to do it. Oh, but now we're seeing the outcome and the consequences in the most vulnerable segment of society, children. And now we're seeing it. But we're seeing it now. We didn't see it at the time. So crush people's mental health, and it'll take a little while to show up because, that's just the nature of mental issues. At the time, look our lockdowns and our face masks and our social isolations, our infection rates, they're decreased this much compared to countries that or states that didn't do it. And then 2 years later, I'd like to see comparisons between children's mental wellness in Florida and Texas and Sweden compared to other states and countries. I'd like to see that comparison. And at this point, I'm well prepared to take the hard position that what was done was foreseeable, and implementing policy that is going to cause foreseeable harm to the most vulnerable segments of society. There's a word for that. Okay. All right, people, I think that's, oh my God, it's 2 hours already. Okay, we are going to call it quits. Let's just see if we got anything on the rumbles. I'm going to go exercise, maybe go for a bike ride, depending on, I got a new mountain bike and I want to use it, but the government ruins everything. You can't bike on the trails in Mount Royal because you can't do it. It's too muddy on certain paths anyhow. And I go biking and then you don't feel like you're getting that full body workout that you get when you jog. And anyhow, that's it. But I'm going to go exercise at some point today to get that nervous energy out, to strengthen the heart, and, to be healthy. Viva, U.S. study by major universities showed there was no statistical differences. I'm not going to read the end of that sentence because I'm not giving medical or legal advice. I've read that study. I read that there was a marginal difference, like in the order of 2%, which is, I guess, within any margin of error, regardless. Yeah, no, I read it. It's who would have known? Who could have known? Who could have known when you look at Australia and New Zealand and their spike in Omicron? Hold on. It's worth it. It's worth it, people. Google Omicron cases, New Zealand graph. Let me just see if I can find. Is this going to be it? Oh, see, I wish one day I'll get a producer who can read my mind. It needs to be a graph. Oh, there we go, people. Let's just see. New Zealand in particular, just you don't even, if this is what a pump and, well, this is not even a pump and dump, but look at this. I mean, here, look at that. Yeah. Although, and they're going to say, well, they kept it low all the way over here. Unbelievable. Some might even say that a virus is going to do what a virus does, and the way to combat that, and I'm just relatively proud to say that I've been saying it since about August 2020 or maybe earlier, is you protect the vulnerable and you let the others who are not vulnerable or willing to live with the risk carry on their lives as humans, as free citizens, and as the engine that is required to continue propelling this ship that is a nation. You know, you let them, the battles are fought by the able-bodied who can fight them. In as much as this is, it applies by analogy mutatis mutandis. The non-vulnerable, above and beyond, I won't venture out of my field of expertise, above and beyond the idea of herd immunity, ultimately needing to, get exposed. Just to quote Dr. Fauci, I won't, but we heard what he said at the beginning of one of my streams. Those who are not vulnerable to serious risk, work, live your lives, support the engine of the country that needs you to work, to earn money so that you can pay taxes, so the government can maintain the infrastructure that is needed to treat the vulnerable, to protect the vulnerable. But no, you can have all sorts of thoughts as to why they did it the way they did it. You destroyed everything. I guess, you could build back better after that. Boom, shish. All right, that's it. This week is going to be good. Right now, I believe Brian Peckford is going to be on at some point this week. I don't know when. I'm going to go try to organize that. Wednesday night, we have a great stream. There might be another amazing doctor, which we might also have to do exclusively on the Rumbles, because I don't want to run afoul of what I know are rules with which I disagree, but they are abusive rules nonetheless. Roly Polioli on Rumble says, I was always told, let the Rona run its course. We're not doctors. And even when epidemiologists say that, they're not the right ones. And when other doctors say it, they're idiots. They don't know what they're talking about. They're quacks. When Malone says it, he's a quack. When when an oncologist says it, he doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not an epidemiologist. When an epidemiologist says it, discredit them. Seems the only one you can listen to is someone who's fought a losing 30-year battle against AIDS. That's the only one you can listen to. Canada is 112th place, Sweden in 55th, Denmark in 5th for overall cases per million population. But I don't care about the cases. I care about the hospitalizations and deaths. Are we the virus that government is vaccinating against? Well, they're free speech is definitely the solution to. It's definitely, if not the solution, at the very least, the spotlight to a great many problems. So that's it. Oh, hold on one second. Please have Jeremy McKenzie of Nova Scotia. Please have Jeremy McKenzie on. Nova Scotia is, I know Nova. The maritime bubbles were outrageous. All right, so that's it, people. We will, I guess we're going to do this tomorrow again. I'll find what to talk about. Maybe there'll be more interesting news. So all that to say, anybody who wants to timestamp this, I'll pin that comment to the top. And that's it. We'll see what Elon Musk does now with his newfound influence and newfound writes as a very big minority shareholder through, what was it? $3 billion. $3 billion. I mean, it's amazing. Thank you very much, Tadeo. You too, as well. It's money is, above and beyond meeting your basic needs. Money is a tool. And Elon Musk, I don't say, people say don't trust Elon Musk. I don't trust anybody with anything. I judge them by their actions. We'll see what Elon does with this tool, because he's certainly using his money as a tool right now, and it's fantastic. And when you own 9% and you have all the money in the world to file a lawsuit, if you believe that the management of a publicly traded company is acting in a way to prejudice the shareholders or the minority shareholders, because maybe the majority shareholders would sacrifice profit for ideology, maybe the minority shareholders of a publicly traded company wouldn't. So we'll see. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. Locals, it is vivabarneslaw.locals.com if you want to support us there. You don't actually have to support to get a bunch of content, but there is a tier that is reserved exclusive content for supporters. It's just the perks that you have to do to reward those or thank those who support you financially. Viva Clips is where I post the clips, the shorter versions of this. And that is all. Enjoy the rest of the day. Get out there, sunshine, sunlight, vitamin D, exercise, eat healthy, and go easy on yourselves, people. Peace.